So in Halo 3, there are still unbeaten challenges to this day, even though the game is 18 years old. And one of them is the Citadel. And to my knowledge, no one has ever been able to launch from the very bottom of the map, the Covenant, all the way to the top of this Citadel. So can we do it? Let's give it a shot! So if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you'll know that I actually tried this about a year and a half ago. But it's one of those challenges that I just have not been able to stop thinking about. Now the objective is very simple. Somehow get to the bottom of this map past the playable area where you're not supposed to be, and then launch all the way from the bottom of this map to the highest point, which is the top of the Citadel. Now you might be asking yourself, why is this so difficult? Normally I wouldn't have a problem with this. If you could somehow get a vehicle down there, you could probably pretty easily launch straight up to the top. But therein lies the massive elephant in the room. There is a humongous barrier preventing you from being able to do that. Now when I tried this about a year and a half ago, I ultimately failed the challenge and I had to do it segmented. So what I did was I launched up to the first part of it and then took a Warthog to the second part of it and then launched up from there. Now the goal and my dream is to somehow find a way to launch all the way from the bottom to the top consecutively. No segmentation, just one beautiful launch. Now in order to pull this off, I knew that there would be multiple elastic barriers that I would have to get through. But there's one advantage that I had this time that I didn't have the previous time that I tried this. When I tried this before, I was controlling 2 players by myself. Now that my brother is a regular part of the show, I now had 3 players. So my plan was to pick up a gravity hammer off the chieftain at the beginning of the mission to use as an in-air flight adjustment tool. This would help me aim towards the top of the Citadel. Now where my brother comes in is my plan was to blast as fast as I possibly could into this elastic barrier so that I could break through multiple to get all the way to the top of the Citadel. And how was I going to do that? We were going to have 3 players stick the bumper of a Warthog while we stood on top of it at the same time. Now luckily the brute chieftain that I killed for the gravity hammer earlier also drops an invincibility, which will allow me to survive this. But before we do that, we have to get to the bottom of the map first, along with an intact Warthog. So after picking up the hammer, we played through to the end of the mission. Then I instructed my brother to pilot a Hornet. I then went and got a Ghost, and what I did was I took it to the left side of the Citadel and boosted it off the map onto an elastic barrier. Doing this causes you to get stuck in mid-air. But if you have a second player with a Hornet line up right next to you and get out of it, you can then get out of the Ghost and land on top of the Hornet and ride it all the way to the bottom of the map without taking any damage. But this is the easy part. The hard part is getting a Warthog down here intact. But this is where having a third player comes in handy. While my brother and I were at the bottom of the map, I used a second laptop to go get a checkpoint and had my Warthog lined up against the ledge. I would then hit the Warthog off with this third player, but now it was up to my brother and I to shoot this Warthog from underneath to make sure that it lands on its wheels. If it lands on its wheels, it will survive some of the time, and pretty much only if it lands on its wheels. Huh.
Okay. That one was hard. That was hard. I hit it a couple times here and there. 2 tree. Hello, I'm from Liberia. I wonder if I get it to spin faster, that would be. I love it. I love sucking so much.
Uh-oh. Boom!
Yeah, that was all me. That was all me.
Which side of this would you prefer to launch on? You get to pick.
Where are we going?
We're trying to get all the way to the top, but the reason that I wasn't able to do this before was because I only had 2 players and I had to double stick the nade. I made it so you have to go so fast you're actually breaking through an elastic barrier to get up to the top, and I was able to do it several times, but only with 2 people. So what we're going to do is we're going to triple stick this hog while I have invincibility, and then I'm going to try to get up all the way up there, but I don't know if I should go from this side or the other side.
Other side.
So like I said earlier, there's a giant invisible elastic barrier box that is sitting between the bottom of the map and the top of the Citadel. My plan was to triple stick a Warthog bumper while standing on top of it so that I could launch fast enough to break through the barrier. Now this green box is a 2D map overlay. You can see that this box is very large, but I have to be going so fast that I break through not only the first elastic barrier on the bottom of the box, but then I have to go through the entire box with enough velocity to break out the top of the box. So basically, I have to get through 2 elastic barriers with this launch.
Get out of this and tell me if you think we're just on the edge of this.
All right, let me do my inspection real quick. Use my inspection laser here.
The plan here was to line up the Warthog as close as we possibly could to directly underneath the tower. If we could break through the box, we wanted a straight shot.
Line up so that you...
Wait. Is this your baggie of drugs?
Yes.
Did you pay taxes on it?
You're going to line up, so basically you're just going to stand there and you're going to be able to stick your plasma grenade right on the bumper. So just line up wherever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kill these scarabs. And then as soon as the second scarab is going down, I am going to die and then get down there and get in position.
So the setup concept for this was simple. In order to get all 3 players to be able to stick the bumper of this Warthog, we would need all 3 of them to be there. This can be a little bit of a tricky issue when you're trying to get a checkpoint and one player physically has to be in the map. Well, luckily on the Covenant, as soon as you destroy both scarabs, you will get an automatic checkpoint. But this checkpoint is not generated until a few seconds after the scarab blows up. So, with myself in position on top of the hog, and my brother just behind it, I used the second player in the map, destroyed both scarabs, and then made sure I was dead almost instantaneously after blowing it up. I then spawned down here with my third player, we got a checkpoint, and now we were ready to triple stick this hog. It was time to finally pull off this challenge.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Oh, it looks like I made it past the initial barrier once. 3, 2, 1. 2, 1. 1. Ooh! I made it through, just not that close. Come on. 3, 2, 1.
I stuck myself. How the hell did I stick myself?
Trash. I need to go so fast.
Yeah, what?
Oh! Oh!
Bazinga.
3, 2, 1.
Why is the UNSC spending $1 billion on warthogs? Pete, you want to tell me what you're doing on that warthog? Sir, finishing this trick. There we go.
The Warthog arc.
So about 20 minutes in and 100 attempts later, I realized that my positioning on the hog was just not ideal.
My positioning on the hog is just bad.
The ideal place to stand for a Warthog launch is roughly around where the turret meets the crossbar section that intersects with the seats. So basically, you need to be standing on the bar between the turret where it meets the back of the seats.
I feel you're like one of the biggest Halo people around, and my mic is literally my iPhone.
I know.
I have two months of a cheap ass to buy one. You know, my ex said I was the cheapest man alive, and maybe she was right.
2, 1.
Maybe she was right. Yeah, I'm gonna have nightmares of you saying 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I think I got it with 2 players. I think if I just stand right here.
So weirdly enough, even with perfectly synced plasma grenade explosions, we discovered that less grenades was actually better?
That was one of the best launches I had.
And it was just 1 grenade.
So I realized at this point, even though I was 5 hours total into this trick if you combine the previous attempts, that maybe I was incorrect in my methodology.
Yeah, I'm going right through the first barrier now.
Maybe more plasma grenades actually wasn't better. Even when they were perfectly synced in their explosion, we were barely able to break through the initial bottom elastic barrier.
Sometimes less is more.
But in the few attempts that we used just one singular plasma grenade, we found that we were consistently getting much higher. And just as I was about to start losing hope, I now had what seemed to be a viable method that was also much more simplistic than me timing 2 plasma grenades with 2 separate laptops at the same time in conjunction with my brother.
I just need a mega launch.
The countdown alone was adding a lot of time to this trick, but now it was time to see if we could actually get it done.
Ooh, that was a nice one. Ooh, yeah, I broke through pretty good on that one. Okay, I think we got to do the 2-man strat. 3, 2, 1.
Holy sh!
My body got eaten by the building?
Come on, Unks, you can do this.
Oh, yang. 3, 2, 1. What the f? Wrong guy.
Alright, wait, before you do anything, yeah, listen to my laser. There goes Thursday! Listen, dude, have you ever had an empanada?
Yes, I have. They're delicious.
I love them. One of those things, like, if it's on the menu, it's going to be really hard to convince me not to get an empanada. Who doesn't love a Mexican pierogi?
Okay, I'm getting higher. Ah, shit, I didn't make it through the second barrier. That was really good, though. I just seen one of those crazy ones again. Oh, I couldn't break through the other freaking barrier. Come on.
At this point, we were an hour and 30 minutes into this, and we still hadn't been able to push all the way through the box barrier one single time.
Damn it.
We decided to set the Warthog up on the other side of the Citadel and gave this a few attempts.
Goodbye!
But short of creating a new launching method, this was not looking promising.
Ah, come on, I just need to go really fast.
Yay. Oh,
So close. Come on. Dude, how did that not break through?
At this point, I couldn't justify investing any more time into this trick. My brother and I had tried this for nearly 2 hours, and we weren't able to break through the full box barrier one singular time. But for some reason, even though I had wasted 6 cumulative hours trying to pull this trick off, I just couldn't shake a feeling I had. A few days later, while trying to see if I could somehow Warthog launch around the box entirely, I had a stroke of genius. I realized that maybe I could use the Warthog, but for an entirely different purpose. Instead of using it as a launching tool, I would use it as a deflection shield. My plan was to ditch the invincibility that I was using to survive the Warthog launches earlier, and instead I would use a deployable cover to launch myself at the Warthog. The goal, or so I hoped, would be able to use the speed of the deployable cover launch to bash into the convex parts of the Warthog, thus deflecting me at an arc in the air. My thought was to set up the Warthog at an area that was outside of the bottom of the invisible box. This way, I could avoid the box altogether, eliminating the need to break through any elastic barriers whatsoever.
This might actually work. getting the height now. Oh, if I had a hammer. So this seemed like a very viable method to be able to pull this off. I was able to avoid the box entirely and get the height needed to get to the tower. On this attempt, however, I didn't have a gravity hammer, which would be an in-air flight adjustment tool that I could use. However, I had already spent time setting this up, so I wanted to see if I could pull it off. Oh! I don't care. I hit the ceiling. Dude, is this a new launching method I just discovered? Because this is crazy. Come on. Nah. Close-ish. That's close, but I think I need a hammer. After 5 minutes of attempting this new Warthog launching method, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to pull this off without a gravity hammer, so I restarted the mission, got this all set up again, but this time with my trusty tool in hand. Okay, that's the right trajectory. I think I got this. Oh my. Oh my. Oh, why did I forget my hammer? Bro, I'm an idiot. I really thought that... I really thought I wasn't going to need anything on that. If I would have just swung my hammer, I would have made it. I'm so stupid, dude. But I got cocky and I was like, oh, I don't even need a hammer for this. So dumb. Now I'm hitting the barrier every time. So my decision to not swing my hammer as I was directly above the citadel and pull off this trick ultimately led to a turning point in which I started becoming terrible. After I just barely missed this attempt despite not moving my Warthog setup, I was now hitting the box barrier every single time that I was doing this. Now I tried this for another hour and I still was not able to land on top of the citadel. That was cool, but not what I wanted to do. So frustrating. Can't get anything done. Every time I have time off, I try to, oh, I'm gonna get ahead. No, I'm not gonna fucking do anything. I'm just gonna film for 5 hours and get nothing done. Fuck this fucking game. So 8 hours later, I was so frustrated by the fact that I was so close to making it and didn't ultimately end up pulling it off. After an hour, I gave up on this again. I had one last plan though. Instead of using a Warthog with its more rigid angles, I was going to use a Wraith this time. Because the front of the Wraith is so curved, I thought it might actually be the best object to deflect off of. I was already 8.5 hours into this. Could I actually pull it off? Oh, and I forgot to turn on my camera for this session.
So after another hour of attempting this, that puts us up to 9.5 hours of failure. I couldn't get it done with the Wraith. I had a decent amount of close attempts, but nothing that was truly close. But I actually had the next day off, and I figured I would give this one final shot. If I couldn't do it, fine, I would give up on it forever. I reverted back to the Warthog setup because it seemed to be the best and closest. I also had my gravity hammer and planned on using it this time. However, to pull this off, I would need nothing short of an act of divine intervention. I think I'm going to need an intervention from Jesus here, guys. Yes! That took 2 years. Bottom to top on the Covenant. The lowest possible point you can go. All the way down there. To the highest possible point right here. I literally had to figure out new methods of launching to pull this off. Okay, so I went into another game and I'm showing you guys exactly what we're working with here. You can see that there's a box, a giant elastic barrier box that you have to get around in order to get to the tower, and it's really large and expands a really far distance. So basically I had to go over into this area right here in order to be able to clear over this giant box that's in the way. But you can see just how close this is. This is about vertical. Right there. It's not perfectly vertical. You can see I threw a Warthog down here to mark roughly where I launched from. And this is diagonal as well. So not only do you have a giant box, it is angular and runs not parallel to the wall. So you basically have to get, well, I had to get this hog over this box. The only way that I could do that was with the deployable cover launch to hit the hog, to go bouncing in the air really quickly, because there's no straight shot. You're not going to get a straight shot straight to that thing. You have to get over that box.